Well, it was only on Monday we spoke with the PRO of the Nigerian Prison Service. He did promise that by Wednesday, which is today, midweek, they should be able to give us an update on what transpired. But just to look at the spate of prison breaks, prisons break or insurrection in some of Nigerian prisons. Don't forget we have had them. Is a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana. He joins us this morning. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Well, how does this come to you when you get to watch almost on a monthly basis, if not every fortnight, about prison breaks in the last 2 months?
Well, I think it's become a disturbing phenomenon, having regard to the regularity of jailbreaks in Nigeria, but many factors are responsible. The principal one is official negligence. In other climes, in other countries, and even in Nigeria, where we had national values appreciated by the government, if a ministry is not well run, something has to be done in terms of getting somebody who can manage the Ministry of Internal Affairs better. It's either you hear of young people, dying in stadia across the country, or prisoners being killed, because they are not taken care of in the prison, or some are escaping. And that is how you run the Ministry of Internal Affairs now. And it's a very disturbing situation where you have prisoners going out to the larger society to harass the rest of us. It's not done. These are, it's a manifestation of the collapse of its state. You hear of these kind of stories in banana republics or failed states where you have guerrilla fighters managing certain parts of a country, releasing people from the prison. And that's what the Boko Haram sharps have been doing. Between 2009 and this year, most of the attacks were carried out by the Boko Haram sect.
But from what we hear now, these ones have been internal. In Lagos, there was a riot, internal, well, that was what we're told, a riot.
That was in Kirikiri.
In Kirikiri.
About 10 prisoners were killed.
That was sometime in October.
Oh, yes.
That was a riot, from what we understand.
Yes.
Down in Cotton Cafe, well, we understand that was external.
Yes.
But if you go to Ekiti,
yes.
and Ekiti was also external, but Mina was said to be internal.
Yeah.
Some of them are internal, some of them are external. Can you say that is Boko Haram related?
No. Most of the attacks in the northern part of the country were launched by the Boko Haram sect, particularly in the northeast. But in other parts of the country, you have had external or internal factor. But the Boko Haram, if you look at it holistically, you come to one conclusion, that those who are managing the Nigerian neo-colonial state do not appreciate what the rule of law is all about. That people commit offenses, are promptly arrested, prosecuted, and sent to jail. And the prison conditions must be made habitable. In most of our prisons, people live in subhuman conditions, and everybody wants to get out of the place.
Why are we drawing attention to the conditions within the prisons? Is it justifiable then that, we're seeing this sort of breaks by the prisoners themselves? Can we justify their wanting to break out, or the fact that they're even getting out by any means?
By any means. I tell you of one. Since March this year, the high courts in Rivers State have not been functioning because of the inability of the National Judicial Council and the Rivers State government to resolve an avoidable crisis. You have a situation whereby the NJC, which is a recommending body, insisting on who should be a chief judge of a state. So you have some of these problems that shouldn't be there, and nobody is calling anybody to order. So you have a culture of impunity all over the place. And this is, now, people have been in prison in that state since March, whose cases cannot come up. So if you have a prison break, out of frustration, you don't blame the prisoners.
Who do you blame?
Or the system, those who are managing the system, who cannot appreciate that the courts must function in every state in the country. And when you attack judges in a state, for instance, right, legislators are chased out of a state, you are already telling the people that the rule of law is in abeyance.
Well, where the courts are functioning, and
Yes.
then you have the breaks, what happens? I was going to ask you a question. Why did we get to this point? I mean, before now, we're not having this amount of jobs.
No, we've got to this point because official impunity has become the order of the day. In all these prison escapes, who has been brought to book? Who has been sanctioned? Nobody.
The prison officials say they sacked those that were responsible for the Mina break. But beyond...
That was just last week. But I'm telling you, in all the previous jailbreaks, it's business as usual. You haven't heard anything from the Minister of Internal Affairs, even to explain to the country. Nobody has offered any apology, and nobody has undertaken that it won't happen again.
There's something about the legal system and the prisons. They work hand in hand. If the prison system is failing, what's the legal system doing to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Now, the stakeholders, when I talk of the system, I'm talking of, you have a situation where you have a ruling class, and this cuts across the political divide. A ruling class that does not even appreciate how to protect its own interest. The stakeholders are not bothered. Have you heard any word from the Nigerian Bar Association? My colleagues are not bothered. It's business as usual. You haven't heard anything from the National Assembly. You'll be surprised to know that since 1999, some bills have been pending in the National Assembly on how to reform the prison system, on how to reform the police system, on how to reform the administration of justice system. All those bills do not bother, do not concern the National Assembly people. And they are soon going to wind up. So the problems continue. So it's a system failure. And unless you identify the causes, you're not going to get out of it.
In your opinion,
And let me just say one.
the cause, one of the
You
causes...
people talk of, prison congestion. You have prison mismanagement. We don't have prison congestion. I think if you look at the incarceration rate per population in the world, we have the smallest population of prison inmates in the world, going by our population. South Africa, with a population of barely 50 million people, right, has a prison population of 160,000 people. Ethiopia, with a population of 82.2 million, has a prison population of 112,000 people. Benin Republic, with a population of 10 million people, has a prison population of 9,000 people. Ghana, 14,000. Out of the 14,000 people in prison in Ghana, only 3,000 are awaiting trial. The rest have been convicted. Here, with a population of 170 million people, we have barely 52,000 prison inmates. And the majority, I think we have just about 12,000 people have been convicted in Nigeria.
But the thing is, we talked about the system, the failure of the system. The legal practitioners, you one of them,
Yes.
have a role to play in this.
No,
You
some
say-
of us are doing our utmost best, whatever we can do.
which includes carrying out
Oh,
cases
going to
where
the
you should
prison,
carry
visitation
them.
prison, visitation to the prisons, and taking out those who should not be there. Filing cases for them in court, and challenging the authorities for keeping people illegally in prisons, and subjecting them to dehumanizing conditions. Oh, we are challenging the state on a regular basis. And sometimes we also insist that chief judges have to visit the prisons with a view to releasing those who should not be there. You'll be surprised to know that some of the ministries of justice cannot locate the files of prison inmates. Oh yes. So you just keep them there indefinitely. The prison you mentioned, the Minam prison, was built in 1918 by the colonial regime. There has been no improvement on that prison since then.
That's